Since the last Beef Expo in 2009, social media has become a critical tool for farmers and rural industry lobby groups. No sector knows that better than beef, which last year had its nose well and truly bloodied by savvy animal rights groups. This year, social media was on the menu every day, and the main message for farmers is they can't afford not to get online and engage. Last year, Australia's beef industry learnt the hard way about the power of social media. After Four Corners showed the brutal treatment of Australian cattle in Indonesian abattoirs, animal rights groups used social media platforms like Twitter, YouTube and Facebook to pressure the federal government. It was relentless and it worked.
Social media can be very powerful. That's a perfect example. That was an industry that's created over 18 years, a strong industry, and overnight, a week, it was shut down.
As an industry, we probably learnt a lot from just the sheer speed. 24 hours was a lifetime, I guess, in relation to that and other issues that our industry face, and it's not going to go away.
Northern Territory Cattlemen's Association boss Luke Bowen was on the front line.
I think what we saw was an incredibly well planned and orchestrated campaign which combined a range of social media and lobby groups which were able to kick in at their designated point when the buttons were pushed. It also demonstrated the power of the volume of response, volume of protest that can be generated at at a click of a mouse.
It was a real wake-up call that we could no longer just have people sitting on the sidelines and watching, that we needed to be actively putting the counter story, the real story of what happens on Australian farms across the country.
Nearly a year after the suspension of the trade, the industry's trying to ensure it's not caught napping again. At Beef 2012, social media seminars were just as important as productivity improvements and blue ribbons.
And you might drive away here with your social media L plates.
MLA's social media manager Matt Dwyer ran daily workshops.
We've moved past that idea of should we be using social media as an industry and as a communication tool, and what we need to focus on is how we're going to use social media as a way to communicate what we do to the community out there.
The beef industry's coming around to the idea that social media can help bridge the divide between country and city.
These conversations are happening out there in social media, and we don't want to be left behind. We want to be there providing our views and our balanced opinion.
The amount of global traffic on social media's three most popular platforms in just 1 minute is astonishing.
On Twitter, we would have seen 175,000 tweets go around, over 700,000 Facebook messages sent across the world, and quite astoundingly, over 2 million YouTube videos would have been viewed. And that's in 60 seconds.
The L-platers heard that nearly 900 million people use Facebook. After participants got the basics, they could go online and open Twitter accounts and start Facebook pages.
I don't know how much I'll do, but I'll definitely have a crack and see how far I go with it.
Something that I was a bit scared of at my age. I suppose you think of tweeting and blogging and all that as just new things that don't affect people of my age and in our industry, and I think it's very exciting.
Will you go home and start tweeting or Facebooking?
I honestly think I will. It's time, I guess, and I guess probably lots of people are probably putting off these sort of things, but I think there is a time to sort of try to use some of these social media mechanisms.
I am a third-generation sugarcane and cattle farmer.
Queensland cattleman Ray Vella is a social media convert. Last year he did an MLA workshop and now blogs and tweets. He even YouTubes.
I don't see it as a chore. I am enjoying it, but I never wanted to go out to really promote social media. I just want to share my information and just share it by using social media because it's free, so why not use it?
MLA wants more producers to get over their fears and give it a go.
Every time we have producers who come through these training to identify how they can utilise social media for their business, for their personal reasons and for the industry, we increase the group of respondees that can handle queries and questions from the community and handle it from the point of view of people with skin in the game, the actual people who wake up every morning wanting to care for the animals, care for the land.
Before he took the top job, Scott Hansen was MLA's man in the US. In 2010, he saw a young couple from a ranch in South Dakota give a speech about social media. Impressed, he arranged a visit to Australia. The booking was made well before the Four Corners story aired. But by the time Troy and Stacey Hadrick arrived, their advocacy message couldn't have found a more desperate and attentive audience.
Stacey and I looked each other in the eye and said, we are not ever going to let anybody else tell our story for us ever again.
Our story on the Hadricks generated an incredible response. Farmers set up blogs and joined Twitter and Facebook.
But you don't live around a lot of people. And so you sit there and you're in the middle of the rural area and you're like, well, how do I get my story out and reach these folks?
The Hadricks were one of the key speakers at Beef 2012. Their message? Farmers need to defend and discuss agriculture whenever, however they can.
There's no excuse for you to not do anything. And, I think we've seen history has shown us what happens when we don't do anything. We ignored the animal rights people for a lot of years thinking they'd go away. We ignored some of these issues and figured people would always know where their food comes from. And all those decisions of not doing anything years ago are coming back to bite us now. And so we need to today realize that we have to be active and involved, and going out and telling a story of agriculture needs to be on your chore list every day.
The Hadricks were pleased to find more Australian farmers using social media.
When we were here the first time, there wasn't a lot of producers online, and we weren't seeing a lot of activity through social media here in Australia. But since that time, and since I think a lot of them have heard our story, they've become, intrigued at least to find out more about what it's about and what they can do with it. And yeah, having MLA go out there and continue to help producers and give them ideas and the knowledge to go forward and probably the confidence too, it's real exciting for us. And anytime we've got more producers out there working together with us and with producers all over the world to tell that story, it's a real gratifying thing.
If live exports blew up again today, would you be caught as flat-footed?
We now have a growing base of industry participants utilising social media who can help tell that story.
Scott Hansen's on Twitter, but while he monitors Twitter feeds, he rarely tweets. Luke Bowen tweets, but not often. Still, he says it's important he's there.
I think it's more about being targeted in what you do, and I think having an understanding of how it works, and when things are important that you need to get a message out quickly, I think that's what it's about. To get it out fast and get the right message out quickly, right some wrongs if need be, or simply inform.
So we've got like 4,000 people follow us on Twitter, and that's been just another tool that we can use to make those connections with other people in agriculture and consumers across the world.
They say that what happens in the US eventually makes its way here to Australia. Stacey Hadrick says Australian farmers should worry about what she and other American farmers have to deal with, because if it's not here already, it's coming.
I think Australian producers have this very unique opportunity to really get ahead of some of those issues that we've already been combating in the States. And that's what we want to stress to them is don't think it's not going to come here. I mean, it is. And they've got to be ready. And the best way to be ready is to be proactive and connecting with consumers now before you need to or have to, define stuff or say why you're doing what we're doing. It's such an incredible opportunity, especially with the Year of the Farmer. What better attention to get with Australian consumers right now?